Chapter 9. The start of my 17 years with an advertising agency. I spent 5 years with Liquizone, 5 strenuous years. I traveled from office to office, here and abroad. Every country presented new problems. One night in Paris, I called in a famous doctor. He told me I was a nervous wreck. He said, "The only thing that can save you is to go home and rest." "I have no home," I said. "I live in a hotel. This hotel is very much like it. I might as well stay here." But he insisted. Then I thought of a fruit farm on Spring Lake, Michigan, which I had so often plowed as a boy. I remembered one name there, Robert Ferris. I had heard he had built a hotel, so I cabled him for accommodations. I received his reply in New York. The hotel had been torn down, but he had cottages neatly furnished with all one could desire. "All you need to bring is your trunk." So I sent him a check for the cottage, and I came on with my trunk. For 3 months, I basked in the sunshine, sleeping, playing, and drinking milk. Then I went to Chicago, fully resolved to give up those efforts which had wrecked me and to live the quiet life. I invited some friends to a luncheon to say farewell to business. I was the gayest of the gay. I intended to keep busy, but I would write in the future for fame and not for money. At the second course, a young man came to our table. He said, "Mr. A.D. Lasker of Lord & Thomas requests you to call on him this afternoon." I knew what that meant. It meant a new career of serfdom, as I saw it. I was nervous, distracted, and ill. It meant night and day service to show others ways to make more money. I turned to my friends at the table and said, "Mr. Lasker cannot do this. I have played my part. I will go to see him because I respect him, but he can never induce me to enter the vortex of advertising again." I kept the engagement. Mr. Lasker handed me a contract from the Van Camp Packing Company for $400,000. It was based on the condition that copy be submitted satisfactory to Mr. Van Camp. Mr. Lasker said, "I have searched the country for copy. This is copy I got in New York, this in Philadelphia. I have spent thousands of dollars to get the best copy obtainable. You see the result. Neither you nor I would submit it. Now I ask you to help me. Give me 3 ads which will start this campaign, and your wife may go down Michigan Avenue to select any car on the street and have it charged to me." So far as I know, no ordinary human being has ever resisted Albert Lasker. He has commanded what he would in this world. Presidents have made him their pal. Nothing he desired has ever been forbidden him. So I yielded, as all do, to his persuasiveness. I went to Indianapolis that night. The next day I started investigators to learn the situation in respect to pork and beans. I found that 94% of the housewives baked their own pork and beans. Only 6% were amenable to any canned bean argument. Yet all the advertisers of pork and beans were merely crying, "Buy my brand." I started a campaign to argue against home baking. Of course, I offered samples of factory baking. I told of the 16 hours required to bake beans at home. I told why home baking could never make beans digestible. I pictured home-baked beans with the crisped beans on top, the mushy beans below. I told how we selected our beans, of the soft water we used, of our steam ovens where we baked beans for hours at 245 degrees. Then I offered a free sample for comparison. The result was an enormous success. After a while, when others followed us, we suffered substitution. Our rivals tried to meet it by insisting on their brand. They said, in effect, "Give me the money which you give to others," and such appeals fell on deaf ears. I came out with headlines, "Try our rivals too." I urged people to buy the brands, suggested, and compared them with Van Camp's. That appeal won over others. If we were certain enough of our advantage to invite such comparisons, people were certain enough to buy. That's another big point to consider. Argue anything for your own advantage and people will resist to the limit. but seem unselfishly to consider your customers' desires, and they will naturally flock to you. The greatest two faults in advertising lie in boasts and in selfishness. The natural instinct of a successful man is to tell what he has accomplished. He may do that to a dinner partner who cannot get away, but he cannot do that in print. Nor can he put over, at a reasonable cost, any selfish undertaking. People will listen if you talk service to them. They will turn their backs, and always, when you seek to impress an advantage for yourself. This is important. I believe that 9/10 of the money spent in advertising is lost because of selfish purposes blazonly presented. The majority of advertising, even today, is based on the plea, "Buy my brand." That plea never appealed to anybody, and it never will. No grocer would say, "Come to my store, not the next door." Even in his simplicity, he is too wise for that. He offers some advantage, yet countless advertisers are spending fortunes to make that attempt in print. Mine is the original. Be sure to get the genuine. All those are simply variations of the plea, "Give me the money which you give to others." It has no effect whatever. All of us have too many selfish purposes to consider those of others. A man not willing to bid for patronage on an altruistic basis has no place in advertising or in selling. You and I would not cede an advantage to anyone at our expense. Then don't expect that others are so different. Permit me to use this Van Camp example as evidence of very common shortcomings. Several able advertising men created impressive arguments, but not one of them knew the situation. Had they gone from house to house and interviewed housewives, they would have reached different conclusions. But that was too much trouble. They were dealing with a man who knew as little as they did about the existing conditions. Their whole idea was to impress that man with some interesting copy. They never got by A.D. Lasker. He was practical. He knew that unless he sold the goods, no temporary advantage could count. So he sought out, to the best of his ability, the man who could sell the goods. Let me pause here to emphasize the fact that favor does not count. Please the man who knows much less than you do about the consumer market, and you may get a temporary chance, but you sacrifice all that is real. In the last analysis, men are in business for profit, not to exploit their ideas. And their ideas vanish just the moment their profit fails to show. I have never had a friend as a client. I have never had the sympathy of an advertiser in my life. Still, I respect them for their position. They desire to exploit their accomplishments just as I do, but they represent the seller side. I must represent the consumer, and those conceptions are usually as far apart as the poles. Van Camp's pork and beans offered no unique arguments. They were like other pork and beans. When we met in the factory and served a half-dozen brands, not a man present could decide which was Van Camp's. But we told facts which no one else ever told. We told of beans grown on special soils. Any good Navy beans must be grown there. We told of vine-ripened tomatoes, Livingston stone tomatoes. All our competitors use them. We told how we analyzed every lot of beans, as every canner must. We told of our steam ovens where beans are baked for hours at 245 degrees. That is regular canning practice. We told how we boiled beans in soft water to eliminate the lime, which made skins tough. Our rivals did that also. We pictured the beans whole, uncrisp, and mealy. We compared them with home-baked beans, with crisp beans on top and mushy beans below. We told why beans, when baked in home ovens, fermented and were hard to digest, and how we baked in sealed containers so no flavor could escape. We told just the same story that any rival could have told, but all others thought the story was too commonplace. Then I noticed that men at their noonday luncheons downtown often ordered pork and beans. These dishes were factory-baked. Apparently these men liked factory baking better than home baking, as did I. So we sent out men to supply Van Camp's to restaurants and lunch counters. Soon we had thousands of places serving them at noonday. We announced the fact, told the number of places, estimated how many men were every day going somewhere for Van Camps, and that set women thinking. Housewives were ready to quit baking beans at home. It was a long, hard task. We went after those housewives, the 94%, and told them how to quit easily. We told and pictured the difference in results, told them how many of their menfolks were buying baked beans downtown. There we had the arguments on our side. We could bake better beans than any woman could ever bake at home, but we could not bake better beans than our rivals. So we centered our attack on the weak spots, made Van Camps seem the one way out. And we created an enormous demand. Not only that, but the Van Camp brand commanded a much higher price than our rivals. Then Van Camp began producing evaporated milk, first in one plant, later in 7 or 8. He wanted to advertise that, but we advised him against it. Evaporated milk is a standard product. It must be made to certain standards to meet government requirements. One cannot establish or claim an advantage on natural or standard products. One might as well say, buy my eggs because they came from Hillside Farm, or my butter, or my lard. Many millions of dollars have been wasted in trying to tie people to some certain brand of a staple, to brands of flour or oatmeal, and to many staple products like those. About all one can say is, buy my brand. Give me the money that you give to others. Insist that I get it. Those are not popular appeals. I analyzed the situation on evaporated milk. I found that certain brands, regardless of advertising, dominated and controlled certain markets. Some they had held for many years, against all efforts to displace them. The only reason seemed to be a familiar brand. Housewives naturally continue on the brands they know. So I devised a plan for making Van Camp's milk familiar. In a page ad, I inserted a coupon, good at any store for a 10-cent can. We paid the grocer his retail price. For 3 weeks, we announced this ad would appear. At the same time, we told the story of Van Camp's evaporated milk. We sent copies of these ads to all grocers and told them that every customer of theirs would receive one of these coupons. It was evident that they must have Van Camp's milk. Every coupon meant a 10-cent sale, which, if they missed it, would go to a competitor. The result was almost universal distribution, and at once. We proved out this plan in several cities of moderate size. Then we undertook New York City. There the market was dominated by a rival brand. Van Camp had slight distribution. In 3 weeks we secured, largely by letter, 97% distribution. Every grocer saw the necessity of being prepared for that coupon demand. In the meantime, we announced in the newspapers the coupon that was to appear. We told housewives what to expect in this milk, and we tried to convert them from bottled milk to evaporated. Then one Sunday in a page ad we inserted the coupon. This just in, Greater New York. As a result of that ad, 1,460,000 coupons were presented. We paid $146,000 to the grocers to redeem them. But 1,460,000 homes were trying Van Camp's milk after reading our story, and all in a single day. The total cost of that enterprise, including the advertising, was $175,000, mostly spent in redeeming those coupons. In less than 9 months, that cost came back with a profit. We captured the New York market, and Van Camp has held it ever since with enormous yearly sales. Compare that method with distributing samples from house to house. There you are offering something unasked for and unwanted. It has no prestige. The very giving of a sample cheapens the product when done in that careless way. The stores are not stocked. Grocers are offended by your free distribution of things they sell. Under our plan, grocers had to stock. The woman to get a sample had to make an effort. She could not know of the sample without reading the facts about this milk. If she presented the coupon, it was because the ads had led her to desire this product. The grocer made his profit on the sale, so he was happy. The woman found Van Camp's in stock when she used that sample can. Thus we captured market after market, and we held them. No casual sample distributor ever made an impression on them. Such is the difference between making a show and really getting what you are after. Few makers of evaporated milk can accomplish national distribution. They cannot produce enough milk. So the problem there usually is to develop local markets to take care of increased production. The time came when rivals used our sample plan and we had to invent something else. Millions of homes had by that time been converted to evaporated milk. The sale had reached 24 million cases annually. The main question then was to establish a familiar brand. Then in new cities which we tried to capture, we offered a secret gift. We offered to mail the housewife a present if she sent us the labels from 6 Van Camp cans. Or we piled wrapped presents in the grocer's store windows without telling what they were. Any woman could get one by buying 6 cans of Van Camps. Curiosity is a strong factor in human nature, and especially with women. Describe a gift, and some will decide they want it. More will decide that they don't. But everybody wants a secret gift. There are things to consider in such an offer. The gift must not be disappointing. It should be somewhat better than women are led to expect. Then the offer must be treated in a rather insidious way. The result of this offer was to induce countless women to buy 6 cans of Van Camp's milk. They paid regular price, but they received a gift which made the bargain attractive. The gift cost more than our profits on the sale, but milk is in daily consumption. There is hardly a limit to what one can pay to get a new user established. The 6 cans made Van Camp's a familiar brand. The user had read all about Van Camp's. She was ready to find it superior, so she asked for Van Camp's when she needed a new supply. We captured and held many a big market in that way. The reader may say this is sampling, it is scheming and merchandising, not dignified advertising as we know it. I have no sympathy with dignified and orthodox advertising. We are in business to get results. The finest palaver in the world, if it fails to pay, is useless. Hundreds of millions of dollars every year are being wasted on it. I want to sell what I have to sell, and sell it at a profit. I want the figures on cost and result. We can pose as artists and as geniuses for only a little while. Businessmen find us out. Those who have tried that plan have perished, every one I know. But a real result-getter never loses his charm. We meet men sometimes whose ideas are centered on the non-essentials. They want to boast of their accomplishments, and they are often big men in some ways. One can easily please them if he wishes to sacrifice all practical ideas, for advertising to them is a maze. But do that and you are bound to lose. The ultimate object of business is profit. Cater to any other side and you will shortly find yourself discredited. I have lost many an account because I refused to feature an institution or to foster some personal pride, but I have always found that the seekers for profit were in the vast majority. Men are crying for new ways to make money. Discover those ways, find out how to promote them, and you will have offered 10 times the work one man can ever do. Not literary work, not work which leads your lady friends to say, "That's wonderful," but practical selling. No man, save a dilettante, will ever try for anything else.